Dude, and he showed that off every time he went out drinking. So, hey, check this out.
Yeah,
Do you recognize that tooth?
This tooth birthed the nation.
Yep.
Welcome back to Short Pour, where we are finally finishing up the season of the Holiday Spirits and finishing our 2024 season. We're your hosts. I'm Chris.
And I'm Brandon.
And so, real quick, too, before we start the episode, like I said, this will be our last episode for the year. We will be back in January after we take a break for the holidays. We're going to be spending some time with family, kind of regathering some ideas and bringing, hopefully, a better, more concise show. But we are also asking if you have gotten any enjoyment out of our episodes or think that we're doing something that you enjoy. Please, please, please leave us a review and a rating on wherever you're listening. It really does help a lot, and that would be the best holiday gift of all.
Yeah, I mean, we know we've come a long way this year, but any sort of help with that goes a long way with us.
So, without any further ado, you probably saw the name of the freaking episode. We are doing something today called Beernog, which sounded cursed to me when I first heard about it.
Yeah, this is kind of a callback. If you were with us from the beginning of this year, we relied on some things from Randy Mosher, actually, and that's kind of where we got this from, because you have that book, right?
I got Randy Mosher's book earlier this year, and in the back of the book, he has like a section for like kind of weird recipes and stuff, and one of the recipes that caught my eye was one for Beernog, and in that, he specifically called out that it was George Washington's eggnog recipe, and that he liked to drink Beernog. And so I thought that was one, disgusting. Yep. Immediately off the rip. It was weird. It was interesting as hell. And I thought that was perfect for the show. And so that's why I wanted to end the year on this one. So as Randy says, this was George Washington's, like, the first president of the United States recipe for this. And he says that it was 1 pint of brandy, half pint of rye whiskey, a half pint of Jamaican rum, a quarter pint of sherry, an unspecified number of eggs, 12 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 quarts of milk, 1 quart of cream, and like he kind of goes through the process of making the eggnog. And then he says that George specifically states to let it set in a cool place for several days and make sure to taste frequently. And Randy adds, I bet he did. So then on top of that, for Beernog, you essentially just pour a beer into the eggnog. So Randy gives us a more modern recipe for something that we could go by. So for our purposes today, we are enjoying this based off of Randy's specifications, which are a 1/3 glass of a hearty ale, a 1/2 ounce of bourbon or rye whiskey, and a 1/2 ounce of brandy, and then eggnog. Randy says specifically, if you don't make your own eggnog, just sit down. But I wasn't trying to do that, so I got store-bought eggnog.
Hey, if we couldn't be responsible enough to chill our drink from before last time, I don't know how we were going to make eggnog before this one.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah. So the brandy I used is the butterscotch from Phantom V.
Nice.
And the whiskey, or the bourbon I used, was the Tomstown Distillery double oaked bourbon.
Nice. I used the same whiskey, but I used the oatmeal cookie. And I did find out we did make a mistake. It is Phantom 5, technically, not Phantom V.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I did it again.
I know. It's right. It's right there. You know, it's
the Phantom 5.
It's Roman numeral. Easy enough mistake.
Phantom 5, my bad. So, and then I think we're also both using the same ale.
Yep.
So he says to choose a hearty, and usually a darker ale or spiced ale is better. So I chose a pecan ale from Abita Brewing, and this pecan ale is made with real Louisiana roasted pecans for a subtle, nutty flavor and aroma. It's brewed with pale Munich, biscuit and caramel malts, and Williamette hops. The roasted pecans are added in the brew house. Crack one open and go nuts. And that is at a 5.2% ABV. I chose this one because I just figured that, it's a nice darker brown, lighter brown ale. And the pecan with eggnog sounded good to me.
Yeah.
And this is actually a beer that Dad gave us because he enjoyed this one. So I figured that's good to throw in and try this. And the eggnog I chose is A&E's beloved eggnog from Anderson and Erickson. Is made using a special 70-plus-year-old recipe passed down through members of the Erickson family. Reminiscent of a melted vanilla milkshake, the custardy and creamy batch is irresistible. Our eggnog is made with hours fresh milk, cream, fully pasteurized eggs, loads of premium vanilla, and a generous touch of perfectly spiced nutmeg. And that comes in at a 0.0% ABV. Yeah. Dude, I've been waiting for that joke for like way too long.
I know you have. Dude, have you smelled the drink?
No, I've been a little afraid to.
Oh, okay. When I first poured it and I smelled it, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like it. But now I like mine has, like the pecan, the oatmeal cookie, the eggnog. I'm like, dude, this smells amazing.
I was gonna say it actually kind of like, as it sat here, I had the same kind of thing, but now that it's like actually mixed, it actually does look and smell pretty good.
Yep.
All right, I'm trying it.
All right, let's go for it.
What the fuck?
Dude, that is such a weird taste.
What the fuck? Dude, it's good.
It is good.
Dude, okay. This tastes like an adult root beer float.
Yes, it does have that.
It tastes like an alcoholic root beer float.
Because it's like thinned out the eggnog. So it's not like that viscousy, thick, feeling you normally get with it. But it's still super creamy.
Yeah, and the eggnog has cut through the carbonation from the beer and like that, hoppy bitterness. So it's like, oh my gosh, dude, this is actually good.
That's pretty good, yeah. That is pretty good. I was so skeptical when I put the beer in there and I was like, and I poured the eggnog in on it. I was like, oh, yuck.
I was too. And I will be honest, like I chose this. I knew that I wanted to do this as an episode months and months ago. Like when I first got this book and I was reading through, I saw it and I brought it up to you. And I thought that I would choose this and I would be like, oh, it'll be hilarious because like it'll be nasty. And we're like not gonna like it and like ha. It's good.
It is good.
That's crazy.
Now, I will say for me personally, did you measure anything? I just like eyeballed everything of like this seems about right. Too. Okay, all right. Yeah, I did too.
And apparently we each got it about right for ourselves because it's good. So because this was from George Washington and because I knew it would be on like the sweeter side. What came to mind for me was having a sweet tooth and potentially having the same sweet tooth as George Washington. Which, what do you know about George Washington's teeth?
They were wooden.
Well, we're going to talk about that today. Because apparently it was so well known that George Washington had terrible dental health. And like, I didn't realize how bad it was. But apparently everybody at the time knew that this guy's teeth sucked.
Well, and the other weird thing is like, I assume everyone's teeth like kind of sucked. So for his to stand out is like, his are really, really bad. I can smell him walking down the street from a mile away. Look at that guy. Like,
well, apparently that's how bad it was. I don't know about the smell, but I guess he was like, it wasn't really that big of a deal until he was around 24 years old. And then I think it like took a pretty sharp decline around the age of 24 for him. There are firsthand counts of his diary that included like stories of having like teeth pulled, and there were like letters found from him that he had written for requests to dentists for like custom dentures to be made for him.
Okay. And
as you said, the story goes that George Washington had a set of wooden dentures made for him. That is a myth.
Okay.
His dental health was actually bad though, and I guess he just didn't know how to take care of his teeth. I mean, like you said, as much as anybody else did at the time.
Yeah.
But apparently he was particularly bad at it because even with his dentures and everything, his teeth would get so yellow and like I guess maybe like caked on plaquey and stuff to where they would look grainy that people would think, oh, those are wood. That's like how it started.
But
they're yeah, to where people were like, oh, they must be wood because they look like that. But apparently they were not. However, they were made. He had several sets of different kinds of dentures made over his lifetime, and he did have dentures that were made of actual human teeth, some of which were his own. So I guess
the ones they saved.
Yes, so I guess he would pull, like when he got some of his teeth pulled, he would have them like try to like preserve them.
Yep.
And then see if he could reuse them as dentures, which okay, that makes sense. Apparently, some of them were also other humans' teeth. Which I guess he would pay some of his slaves for their teeth that would fall out.
Okay.
Although I guess they probably wouldn't have much of a choice.
Right, yeah.
He took them or not.
Yes.
Okay. He also it was known that he had some dentures that were made from either like horse's teeth or cow's teeth.
Oh.
Yeah.
I assume those were like molars? Like he used them as molars, I guess?
I don't know. That's just what it said. He had a pair that was made from ivory, although people didn't know exactly what they were. It was speculated that they could be elephant tusk, but people weren't sure. Mm-hmm. They did have an ivory pair. He had some dentures that were also metal, so he had some that were like lead tin alloy.
Oh, yikes.
Copper alloy and silver alloy.
All right. Yeah, for those antimicrobial properties.
Oh, yeah. So during the American Revolution, he had a rotating cast of dentists. Like he had several dentists like on call, I guess, because his teeth were like an actual issue for him. Yeah. They bothered him. Like there were a lot, like in the diary accounts, he would complain of like mouth pain a lot. Like it really did hinder him. And as we'll kind of get into, it really affected him later in life.
Jeez.
So he had this rotating cast of dentists that he would use until a loyalist Frenchman defected from the British side and snuck away through enemy lines to be his personal dentist.
Jeez.
Right?
How does that deal get worked out?
Yeah, so they were apparently really skeptical at first. And I guess he had to go through like a vetting. Yeah, he went through like a vetting, like a waiting process to be like, this is a trap, right?
Yeah, I was like, this guy's going to kill me. Like, that's the whole point of him being my dentist.
Right, yeah, that is true. That is a very compromising position to just be like, here, just sit here, lay down with your mouth wide open and don't move around because I'm just going to be doing a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. Trust me, I'm not going to I'm not going to kill you.
Yeah, that's wild.
So in 1781, a letter was intercepted by British forces that George Washington had sent to one of his dentists that told that dentist not to send teeth scrapers to Philadelphia because actually him and his army would be staying in New York for a while. But his teeth were hurting so bad that he needed to get them there soon. He needed them like express sent because his teeth were hurting him. So that letter was intercepted by the British, and we're going to find out what happened after this break.
Let's take a quick break.
I'm Shay.
And I'm Jody.
And together, we host the Rainy Day Rabbit Holes podcast, a deep dive into the misty mysteries of the Pacific Northwest.
From the untold stories of eccentric pioneers to the secrets buried deep in the moss-covered forests, we take you on a not-so-serious journey through the quirky tales and hidden stories of the region.
On our show, you can hear great content like...
Dr. Dewey's teachings propelled Linda Hazard into a lifetime career of starving people for money under the auspices of healing.
I could do that.
Run a cult or
both.
And thoughtful insights like...
I think he was abducted by a drunken lumberjack, as usual.
Those drunken lumberjacks just abducting bears.
It was an epidemic.
From coffee pioneers Starbucks to feet on a beach and even Bigfoot, we have something for everyone.
So grab your latte and hit play. Listen, learn, and laugh with Rainy Day Rabbit Holes. See you down the rabbit hole.
was a lie.
Oh, okay.
The letter,
Yeah.
the letter that they crafted was apparently his dental issues were literally so widely known. I guess at the time, everybody knew that George's teeth sucked.
Mhm.
So the British got this letter and were like, of course, like, duh, his teeth are shitty.
Mm-hmm.
So that letter helped end the Revolutionary War because the British assumed then that they were staying in New York and that General Cornwallis's forces would be safe in Yorktown. But in reality, they used that lie to move all of their forces and win that pivotal battle that eventually led to the unconditional surrender of the British forces.
Oh, nice. No, that is super crazy. But also, like, what a different time where British people are looking down on American people's teeth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Well, to be fair, not all American people's teeth.
Yeah.
Just George's.
Just the most American person at the time.
True. But like, so that is like crazy though, that like literally because he had these dental issues, they were able to use that to eventually win the war, win the American Revolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that is. Also, talk about kicking someone while they're down. Like, if he was really having dental trouble, they're like, all right, now's the time when we attack.
Well, to be fair, they were planning on just leaving him alone. Because remember, they thought that he was just gonna stay in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't send more troops to bolster Yorktown.
That's true.
Because they thought he was just staying put. Yeah. But like I said earlier, his dental issues continued for his entire life. Like the rest of his life, it gave him issues. So by the time he was inaugurated as president, he had only one remaining natural tooth left in his head.
Oh, geez. How old was he at the time? Do you know? Man, this guy has a long Wikipedia page.
Yeah. He was 57 years old when he was inaugurated. So, like, he wasn't a young man.
Oh, man. Yeah,
but still,
he's much older than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was clearly much older than most of the other people who he was fighting with. But, so, to be fair, it's not that crazy. But still, he had only one remaining natural tooth. Years later, he finally lost that tooth. And when he did, he had to have it pulled. Mm-hmm. And he insisted that his most recent favorite dentist, Dr. John Greenwood, should keep it.
Oh, yeah.
He said, you know what, man? We've been through a lot. You go ahead and hang on to this thing. And I guess John Greenwood was like stoked about that because he got it encased in glass and he wore it around like his watch chain, like his pocket watch chain.
Oh, nice.
Like a trinket.
Dude, and you know he showed that off every time he went out drinking. So, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
Do you recognize that tooth?
Yeah. This tooth birthed the nation.
Yep. Man, imagine what this guy would have
dude.
done with a full set of teeth. He only needed one.
Yeah. Yeah. He had full dentures after that point, obviously, and they affected him greatly for the rest of his life. I imagine denture technology wasn't the best back then anyway.
Yeah.
And so he would often complain that they were like too bulky and they were uncomfortable. And because of that, like they would sit weird in his mouth and it would make it difficult for him to talk. And so I guess as he grew older, like later in his life, he started to grow quieter because it
hurt.
He just didn't like talking anymore because it hurt. And then also, I guess this might be me reading into it a little bit. I would also imagine that like you probably don't want to talk to people all the time with just gums.
Yeah.
When like not everybody else doesn't have that. Like I can see that being like a barrier too.
Yeah.
Especially when you're supposed to be like the leader of a nation.
Right.
He also hated the way that they pressed like against his like lips. So I guess that whenever he would wear them, they would like kind of like make his like mouth kind of protrude out.
Okay, yeah.
And he hated the way that it looked because it would give him like a little bit of like a trout pout, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
So that's going on. And during this period of his life, his wife, Martha, who also apparently wore dentures, just by the way, Martha commissioned a portrait from artist Gilbert Stuart to be made that would later be known as the Athenaeum Portrait. Or Athenaeum Portrait, but I like Athenaeum Portrait. Dude, they don't name shit like that anymore.
No, I know.
Isn't that badass?
We need to
The
start.
Athenaeum Portrait.
Hey, maybe this becomes our new naming format, and this becomes the Athenaeum episode. What the hell does that mean?
The Athenaeum episode. Yeah. I read that and I thought that was like so badass though. It sounds like the I don't know, it sounds like a high suspense like thriller like mystery novel name or something.
Yeah,
the Athenaeum Portrait.
Or even like I thought of, like a Lord of the Rings-ish kind of like fantasy thing of like okay, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I just thought it was a cool name.
What does that mean? How did they come up with that?
So we will get to that here in just a second. There is a reason why it's called that. So that artist, Gilbert Stuart, met with Washington and painted his likeness, and he painted his head and like just the tops of his shoulders. And at the time, like paintings and portraits took a long time to do. Yeah. So I guess what they did to like maximize their time was he just painted those features because you had to be very particular about the face because that's how people recognize you. Yep. So I guess the idea was that he would like take it back and then finish it later, not on Washington's property.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But so he painted it with Washington's dentures in, and so that's how he looked. Stuart took the painting back with him, but he would never actually ever finish the painting or ever give it back to the Washingtons. Instead, what he did was he took it back and he said, you know what? I have the only one-to-one reference of George Washington in my fucking house. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to replicate it and sell a bunch of them to different people.
Oh, yeah.
So he just started using that as his own reference and just made more actual finished paintings of George Washington and sold them to other people.
Oh, nice. I bet that pissed them off.
Yeah. I mean, so that actual painting, though, the unfinished painting, has been immortalized for decades now because that is the picture that appears on the dollar bill.
Oh, nice.
And so if you look on the dollar bill, his lips are a little bit like the way that his lips are like a little bit like protruded over it. That's because like that is like his dentures are in there sitting in there. Yeah. And apparently he hated the way that he looked like that. Yeah. So he wouldn't even like the picture because he hated the way that he looked on it.
Oh, man. Yeah. I will say, I feel like every picture I can think of with George Washington, he's doing that like closed-lipped, like I'm smiling because you told me to, not because I want to.
Yep. Yeah, and you can kind of see on like the lower part of his chin, there is like a little bit of a line. Mm-hmm. And like if you start to look, his mouth is kind of large. It does look like he's like wrapping his lips over something because those are his big dentures.
Weird.
Yeah. But that painting, after Stuart's death, the portrait was sent to the Boston, I think it's Athenaeum.
Okay.
But that is like, it's just an independent library in Boston. So that is why it is called that, though, is because it's lived most of its life there. So thus it was dubbed the Athenaeum Portrait.
Okay. Still cool.
Although I do think it's called the Athenaeum. But I just don't think, it doesn't sound as cool to me. I don't know.
Yeah. How old was he when he lost all his teeth, did you say?
I think he was probably around 59 when he lost his last tooth.
Okay. Do you know how old he was when he died?
67.
I mean, that's a good chunk of time not having any teeth.
Yeah.
I read something that he treated it with like an early form of like opium, or he treated the pain with like an early form of opium.
I bet he did. And apparently his eggnog.
Yeah. Yeah. And his Beernog.
Yeah.
You don't think that's what caused it, do you?
That's what I'm saying, though. He like clearly had like a big old sweet tooth. And I mean, he packed a lot of booze into that thing.
Yeah, it is just, this is another drink that you're going to mix the alcohol with more alcohol and then add this alcohol. Although this one's mostly eggnog, at least.
Yeah, so yeah, and add a bunch of sweet cream to it, but still.
Yeah. It is good, though. I feel like it's getting better the like longer it's like been together.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I do think it is getting better, but also I do see how like I wouldn't want to drink like I would drink one and I'll be fantastic. Right. This is not a drink that I'll be like, I want to re-up and just keep drinking this all night. I feel like I would. Yeah, I'd feel awful at the end of the night if I just kept drinking these.
Yep.
But it is good.
I like it much more than I thought I would have.
Yeah, me too. Which this might be shaking up some things on the back half of this episode here. We have discussed, instead of doing reviews for this episode, we were going to rank our top 3 beers that we've enjoyed this past season of the show. So I'll start. I'm gonna do number 3.
Okay.
I think my number 3 beer or drink that we've had. Originally, I had Tiny S's from Prairie Artisan Ales.
Okay.
This might be my 3. The Beernog.
Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't even consider that, I guess.
I know that there's recency bias because this is sitting in front of me, and they're also wildly different from each other.
Yep.
But this is something that, like, okay, a Skittles beer, that sounds like it'd be pretty good. I think the Beernog gets points for just being like, it's really good.
You
It
like
is honestly
the underdog factor of it. Of like, this doesn't sound like it
good.
should work.
And it doesn't seem like it would be good at all. So I feel like that's got to earn some points for me. So I'm putting it in at 3. Or my number 3 this year is this Beernog.
Okay. My number 3 from this year was one of our, I think it was from like the second episode we ever did. My number 3 is the Flynn's Irish Red.
Ooh, nice.
It was just so creamy. I loved it.
I know. Well, Flynn's Irish Red was my number 2.
I figured it would.
For the same reason.
I figured it would be.
So creamy and it's so good.
I know. That was a great
dude,
beer.
So good.
Yeah, that was a really good beer. My number 2 was your former 3, I guess. My number 2 was Tiny S's.
Oh, nice. Okay, so at least it still makes it on in some way. But yeah, that would be right there for me too.
Yep. And then you can go ahead, but I'm pretty confident we have the same number 1.
Yeah, I think that we both have Love Gun from Heavy Riff.
Yep, that is my number 1.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's the one that's like the cream ale,
Yes.
and it tastes just like cream soda in beer form.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good beer.
So good.
I would say all of yours are like very creamy.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. Like looking at my top ones, all of them have the cream. So I guess yeah, that's something new I've learned about myself this season.
Yeah, it only took well, I don't even want to look up how many beers or drinks we actually did for the show. I don't
we've
actually
drank a
want to
lot
know
of
a number for it. Yeah, it was a lot though.
Yeah, we drank a lot. Oh boy.
Yeah, the break will do some good for my health, I think.
Yeah. But we're going to be drinking a lot more after this too.
Yep. Yeah, I think we got some big things set up for next season or next year. So hopefully we'll start taking advantage of those soon.
Well, I think that's going to wrap up our first year of Short Pour. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy whatever holidays you celebrate with whoever you celebrate with.
And we'll see you next year. Thanks for listening. As always, if you want to like or subscribe, please follow us on Instagram at shortpourpodcast or send us a suggestion through email at shortpourpod@gmail.com.
And as always, whether you pour short
or pour long,
always finish.